Go.
Hi, welcome to the Maintain Me resource channel on YouTube. I'm Morgan. I'm the director at Maintain Me.
And hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm the owner of Maintain Me.
And today we are going to be talking about what is Sundowning syndrome. What is this? Is it disease? Like, what is Sundowning syndrome? Maybe you've heard it before. So we're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to start with a definition. So it's actually a range of behaviors that worsen day to evening or afternoon to evening, usually associated with someone who has dementia or some Alzheimer's, some form of dementia. And it's kind of a state of confusion. Chelsea, you want to go into a little more, signs and symptoms, more definition?
Yes, absolutely. So the thing that we talk about the most is trying to identify sundowning and put, I guess, a little clarity around why some of these things may be happening. So things to look out for is going to be an increase in confusion. So someone can have a cognitive impairment and be confused at baseline throughout the day, but then towards the evening or late afternoon, start to become more confused. And it's rhythmic. So it happens almost daily around the same time, and we start to see trends in that. So increased confusion, not just like clear-headed tube straight confusion. Oftentimes it is somebody who already has an impairment. This is not something that just kind of comes out of nowhere, but it does worsen. Another thing is anxiety. You start to see maybe increased anxiety about maybe someone being in their space. If they're already in a care community, you might hear something like mom say, oh, so-and-so keeps coming into my room, and being a little paranoid, more paranoid than they typically would be. Maybe some aggression happening at night, getting so confused that they start to lash out or they start to be scared. Again, a lot of those things are underlying fear. And so like lashing out, maybe colorful words, things like that, increasing at nighttime, wandering, so wanting to leave the house or maybe their care community, especially at night, trying to escape, we talk about, and then increased pacing or pacing in general. They don't always have to pace for them to pace more necessarily, but the pacing might be a way that they're dealing with some anxiety and just trying to understand why they're more confused and try to familiarize themselves with their area and things like that. So those are just a few. And we're going to talk about some misconceptions because a lot of our clients have asked us, maybe they're saying one or two. So Morgan, can you go a little bit into some of the misconceptions about sundowning?
Yeah, definitely. So oftentimes the signs and symptoms are very different. Most often it's very different. And so I think one of the misconceptions is that everyone sundowns the same. You'll see, you could have even two people who are related, both with dementia, who have very different signs and symptoms, or become agitated in different ways, or maybe one gets aggressive and maybe one gets very weepy and very sad. So it can be two very different, and usually is, I mean, when you're talking about damage in the brain, just cell death, you cannot predict where it's affecting different brains. Misconception number two, that it's a disease. Sundowning syndrome is not a disease. Sundowning syndrome is a symptom of a disease. Like I said, a range, a cluster of related behaviors. The third misconception is medicate. We love to medicate in any and all instances in Western culture. So when we look at this, is there a magic pill for dementia? No. Is there a magic pill for sundowning syndrome? No, definitely not. There can be some medications that will help, and Chelsea's going to talk about that a little bit more, but do not look for a pill. Basically, it's more of a set and setting. And then there is the fourth misconception is there's a reason, there's a cause to this. Again, no identifiable cause. It's just related to cell death in the brain as a symptom of a dementia-related disease.
Yeah, when I want to just touch on something that you talk about, and Morgan is so good about this. She teaches me daily. But when we talk about sundowning not being a disease, one of the reasons we like to touch on that a little bit is because we are trying to change the way that we talk about people with cognitive impairments. And with sundowning being like, oh, my mom's a sundowner, that's very like putting a disease label on people. And so oftentimes we're trying to say, she's experiencing some sundowning symptoms, or, her dementia is characterized with some sundowning syndrome, or, so just those are some ways that us as practitioners in the field and are trying to be a little bit better about that, because it's so easy to chalk up all these symptoms and just try to label that as mom or dad or grandma and grandpa, and that's just who they are now. And we all know that's not true. And so those are ways that we're all trying to help out and just remind people that it's not a disease. It's just kind of some of the characteristics that some people experience. So it's like there's so many different things, but that is one thing that I think we are trying to do better every day. Is recognizing it's not a disease and that it's just characteristics, and how we can be better about speaking to our loved ones about it. Okay, so let's go into ways that you can manage it, because if you're watching this video, the likeliness is that you want to know, you already probably know this, the person that you are either caretaking for, or your loved one, or however it works, you're up to here and you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. So let's help out on some of the things. So the first thing is proper sleep. Now, oftentimes when I say that to people, they're thinking, oh, okay, mom just needs to sleep more. Well, not necessarily. It might just be that we need to have proper sleep at the right time. So decrease the napping during the day, because that's going to keep them up at night. Maybe if we can almost get to the point of exhaustion or a little bit more tiredness at nighttime, it will help alleviate some of those symptoms by sleep. So try to eliminate any of the sleeping during the daytime, and really try to get into management number 2, which is routine. So getting up, stimulating the brain, getting it tired during the day so that at nighttime it doesn't have much left to give. And so, doing a routine, proper nutrition, all that stuff is a big part of the routine. Getting good food, trying not to nap all day, exercising the brain, which is very different than exercising the body. So look into cognitively stimulating activities so that you have a better sleep at night. And then routine we talked about, so decreasing caffeine. Oftentimes with somebody who's cognitively impaired, they don't remember how much caffeine they've had. And so if it's a routine for them to have caffeine every day, try to have that earlier in the day, and then try after lunchtime to, convert to either decaffeinated or something a little bit more hydrating, which like any kind of teas or waters, and obviously no caffeine. So we're just trying to create a really nice sleep environment at night so that they have better sleeping. Another thing is a nightlight, which honestly I didn't think about. I used to own an assisted living, and we all did in the assisted living spaces have adequate light at night to decrease falls. But if you're in your home and you're taking care of somebody, that might not be something that's typical for them. So check around the house, make sure that you have a nightlight. That nightlight is mainly to, when that person wakes up in the middle of the night and they're already confused, allow them to see familiarity in their room, and being able to kind of quickly orient themselves to where they are and maybe mitigate some of that confusion. Another thing is music. This could be soothing, but also stimulating. So soothing in a way that it's just kind of keeping their brain stimulated, and therefore just like a little bit less wandering. Oftentimes they'll wander and they'll create stories. And so it's nice when they have music, something to listen to stimulate their brain. And then it also is relaxing at the same time. Distraction. If somebody gets up in the middle of the night and they're very agitated, maybe bringing up a story that is soothing to them, talking about a loved one that they just adore and they could talk about for a long period of time, maybe bring up an old time memory, something to get them out of that state of mind to then try back into the routine of night. And then the last one is medication. So the reason Morgan and I bring this up last is because we don't think that there's medication that can fix all. However, we don't believe that there's not a medication that can help if it means that all other measures have been tried. So there are a lot of different medications. I'm not going to go into any of them just because it's changing so much on what people are using. Seroquel used to be kind of the go-to. What we're seeing more often than not is practitioners actually using different medications before Seroquel for one reason or another. Sometimes it causes some dizziness and an increase of falls. And so I think that they are still practicing in that department. And that's just the way medicine works. And so I think that if we can try to do all these other things really well, and it means that you've done them all and you can bring it to your practitioner and say, hey, we've done all these things, is there a medication that can maybe help us? Then the doctor's going to kind of know, like, okay, based off of what was helping, is there a medication that will, like, if your person has to get up and walk in the middle of the night, they're not going to put them on a medication that's going to make them an increased fall risk. So those are some of the things that we need to know when you're prescribing is what things have been kind of working and how can I keep those things in the mix and then maybe eliminate some of the things that aren't working. Maybe that person doesn't like to get up at all because they just start wandering and it becomes dangerous. Then maybe they need to be a little bit more sedated. So those are some things that will really help a practitioner put them on the right medication to begin with, instead of having to go through a lot, because the side effects and the amount of time that it takes for those things to actually work is a very long and drawn out process to find the right medication. So before you dive into that long committed process of finding the right medication, it's really important to a provider to know what things have worked and what has not. Anything else? This is a really touchy subject. It's a hard thing. Even if we educate you on all the things we know, it's not going to make this easy. It's a hard situation, especially if you're the caregiver. So feel free to reach out and ask questions down below. Morgan, is there anything else that we haven't covered on sundowning?
No, I think that was good, robust material.
Okay. We are doing these videos we try to post one at least once a week. And it really just is guided by what we're doing in the field. We do consulting, case management at home to help people age in place. And then we also help them transition to independent living, assisted living, and memory care when home is no longer an option. And so if we can help along that journey with you guys, we are here trying to educate you, whether you're doing it on your own or using a professional like us, to really just be able to make this transition as smooth and empowering as possible. We always put our phone number down below, so please feel free to reach out. Commenting, hearing what you guys have to say, what questions you have means a lot to us. Feel free to reach out at any time. Okay, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.